Okay, we're back from the somewhat failed, successful experiment. Okay? All right, let's talk about Venus. You can sometimes see Venus up in the west. If you've ever looked out to the west at night, early morning, you got that really bright light out there. Yeah, that's Venus. That's Venus. It is the brightest planet out there. Okay, you'll see it. It is referred to as the morning star a lot of times, or the an evening star. But it's really bright. But it's actually Venus is what you're looking at. Figure out which way west is tonight. It's starting to get dark early. If you walk outside and take a look, if it's not cloudy, you'll be able to see it. Okay. Sometimes it will rise before the morning sun, and it's called the morning star. You can see it out in the west just after sunset, and then it's known as an evening star. It's not actually a star at all, of course. It is, it is a planet. It's not a star. Okay. Venus' density and internal structure are very similar to Earth. Okay. But in other ways, Venus and Earth are very different. Okay. Because it is pretty much the same size as Earth, it is sometimes referred to as Earth's twin. Okay? Now, here's the fun part. Venus takes about 7.5 Earth months to revolve around the sun. Okay? Okay, it takes us 12 months. It takes Venus about 7.5 Earth months to go around the sun. But it takes about 8 months for Venus to rotate once on its axis. Okay? 8 months to rotate on its axis, 7.5 months to go around the sun. So its day is actually longer than its year. So a day on Venus is actually longer than its year.
It's like if you're,
it only takes 7.5 months.
Like
Listen, it only takes 7.5 months for it to go around the sun. But it takes 8 months for it to rotate on its own axis one time around. How long does it take Earth?
1 day.
1 day, 24 hours. That's 1 day. Okay? Yes?
Like say like somebody got landed on Venus or something, and then they're like, how's it feel being up there for 8 months? I mean, and they're like, I was only up there for like 1 day.
Yeah, the time would throw you off just a tad, wouldn't it? So, now, it also rotates east to west. Other planets goes west to east. Venus goes east to west. Okay, a little bit different. Yes?
Would that mean that would night last the same amount of time?
It would be, I guess it would be divided up. Because we want to know with night, how long a night would be. It would depend on where it was in its revolution around the sun.
Like if it were sunset
Okay.
after 8 months, would it just be another 8 months to...
Okay. So, now, astronomers hypothesized that the unusual rotation was actually caused by a very large object that struck Venus billions of years ago, and such a collision could have caused it to change its direction of rotation. That would have been a serious collision to have stopped that planet dead in its track and make it go the other way, but yet left it intact. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe it could have grazed.
I'm not an astronomer. Yeah, maybe Superman went there and went backwards and got it going again. You ever seen that bad movie, the Superman movie? All right, the first one. All right. So another hypothesis is that Venus's thick atmosphere could somehow have altered its rotation. So they're not 100% sure. There's a lot of theories. Okay. Now Venus's atmosphere is very thick. It's always cloudy there. Okay, from Earth or space, you can only see a smooth cloud over Venus, and these clouds are made mostly droplets of sulfuric acid. Yes, sir. Sure. If you could stand on Venus's surface, you would quickly be crushed by the weight of its atmosphere. Okay, the pressure of Venus's atmosphere is 90 times greater than the pressure of Earth's atmosphere. Okay? And you couldn't breathe on Venus because its atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide. Now, I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but the air above you, air does have weight. The air above your head weighs about as much as a bus. The reason it doesn't crush you is because it's equaled out all around, and your inside is equaled out. Okay, so all things equal, it doesn't go. It's kind of like trying to put the balloon in the bottle. Everything was equaled out, nothing happens. Okay, so that's why you don't get crushed. Okay,
I feel so strong.
because Venus is closer to the sun than Earth, it receives more solar energy than Earth does. Much of this radiation is reflected by Venus's atmosphere. However, some of the radiation actually reaches into the surface and is later given off as heat. But the carbon dioxide in Venus's atmosphere is so thick that it traps that heat in. So the average temperature on Venus, on the surface, is about 460 degrees Celsius. Okay? That's hot enough to melt lead, just so you know. Okay? Of course, that is referred to as the greenhouse effect, and we have the greenhouse effect on Earth also.
Oh, yeah, we learned about that last year.
Okay. Many space probes have visited Venus. Okay. The first one landed in 1970. It survived only a few minutes on the surface because of the high temperature and the pressure. It kind of got crushed real fast.
Like, they spend millions of dollars.
Yep, bunch of money just to have it crushed. But you learn from it, okay? Later probes was more durable and was able to send images back down to Earth and data back down to Earth. Okay, the Magellan probe reached Venus in 1990, carrying radar instruments. And these radars worked through the clouds, so the Magellan was able to map nearly the entire surface of Venus. And its data was confirmed that Venus is indeed covered in rock. Venus' surface has many volcanoes and broad plains that was formed by lava. So at one time, it had active volcanoes on it. Okay. Then we go to Mars. And Mars is called the red planet. Okay, little green men comes from Mars. Somebody had a Christmas thing going. Okay. When you see it in the sky, it does have that shiny red tinge to it. And that reddish color is due to the breakdown of the iron-rich rocks that creates a rusty dust that covers much of Mars. So that's why it appears to be red. That's why it's called the red planet, because it does appear red because of the rusty tinge to it. Okay. Now, the atmosphere on Mars is more than 95% carbon dioxide. It is similar in composition to Venus's atmosphere, but it's much thinner. Okay, you could actually walk around on Mars, but you would have to wear an airtight spacesuit. You'd have to have your own oxygen tank, kind of like a scuba diver. You know, when he goes under the water, you got to have your own oxygen tanks with you. Mars has few clouds. They are very thin compared to the clouds on Earth. Mars' transparent atmosphere allows people on Earth to view its surface with a telescope, and the temperature on that surface ranges from negative 140 degrees Celsius to about 20 degrees Celsius. So that's a pretty broad range. So even if you colonize Mars and you lived on Mars, you're going to spend a lot of time inside the pods that would be built, because being outside would be difficult for long times. Okay. In 1877, an Italian astronomer named Sky Puscirilli, I don't speak Italian very well, announced that he had seen long straight lines on Mars, and he called them channels. Okay. In the 1890s and the early 1900s, this other guy, Percival Lowell, he was an American, and he convinced many people that these lines were canals that had been built by intelligent Martians to carry water. Now, of course, that was later proved that he was mistaken,
I wonder why.
possibly crazy. I'm not sure which. Okay, there are no canals on Mars. Okay? Images of Mars taken from Earth, from space do show a variety of features that looks as if they might have been made by ancient streams, lakes, or floods. There's huge canyons and features that looks like the remains of ancient coastlines. So scientists think that there was, at one point in time, possibly a large amount of liquid water on Mars. Scientists infer that Mars must have been warmer and had a thicker atmosphere at that time. At present, the liquid water cannot exist for long periods of time on Mars. Mars' atmosphere is so thin that any liquid water would quickly turn into gas. Okay? So where is Mars' waters now? Well, some of it is located in the planet's two polar ice caps, so it does have ice. It contains frozen water and carbon dioxide, which shows you how cold it is. Carbon dioxide is a gas, and for a gas to freeze, it has to be incredibly cold. Okay? Some water vapor has probably escaped into space, but scientists think that a large amount of water could still be frozen underground.
Wait, Mr. Cyborg,
Yes?
do you think, like, how far away are we from Earth? Are we from Mars? And if it took us a couple of days to get to the moon, wouldn't
It takes about 6 months to get to Mars, there, like,
to where?
thank you, to get to Mars.
6 months.
About 6 months. Okay? All right. Seasons on Mars, because Mars has a tilted axis, it has seasons just as Earth does. Okay? During the Martian winter, an ice cap grows larger as the layer of frozen carbon dioxide covers it. Because of the northern and southern hemisphere have opposite seasons, as one is growing and more stuff is freezing, the other one is getting smaller, okay, because it's summertime there. In wintertime it grows, summertime it gets smaller, okay? Kind of like the caps here, okay? As the seasons change on the dusty surface of Mars, windstorms arise and blows the dust around. Since the dust is blown off some regions, the regions look darker. 100 years ago, some people thought that these regions looked dark because plants were growing there, but they now realize that it's just the result of the windstorms blowing the dust back around. Okay. Now, space probes have visited Mars. The first one seems to show that Mars is barren and covered with craters, kind of like our moon. Recently, though, 2 new probes landed on Mars' surface, the Spirit and the Opportunity. And these are rovers, okay, the little cars that they could actually drive around. And they examined a variety of rocks and soil samples. The rovers found strong evidence that liquid water had once been present. And the European Space Agency Mars Express probe orbited overhead, finding clear evidence of frozen water. Okay.
So there was like lake?
At one point in time, they figured that there was quite a bit of water on Mars.
How big is Mars compared to Earth?
Smaller, about half, a little bit more than half.
Say you took that
Stop.
frozen block of water and you took like a torch and melted it, but then you gathered all that water and brought it back outside. Would it freeze like almost immediately?
Well, it depends on the temperature at the time. I mean, yeah, if it's just water, it would probably freeze pretty quickly. If it was gas, you'd have to go out when it was extremely cold. Okay. All right, now volcanoes on Mars. This is pretty cool right here. Some regions of Mars have giant volcanoes. They see signs of lava flows from the volcanoes in the past, but the volcanoes are no longer active. Olympus Mons on Mars is the largest volcano in the solar system. It covers a region as large as the state of Missouri. Its base would fit in the state of Missouri. and it is nearly 3 times as tall as Mount Everest, which is the highest mountain on Earth. Yeah. So 3 times.
How tall is that?
Everest is what, right about 6 miles?
Yeah, so that's about 18.
So about 18 miles.
Is that probably like one tenth of like Mars?
Pretty big, yeah. That's pretty big. All right. Now Mars has 2 very small moons. You got Phobos. The larger moon is only about 27 kilometers in diameter. It talks about how a distance car could travel that on a highway in about 20 minutes, but it doesn't tell you how fast the car is going. So it really depends on the speed there. And then you got Desmo is even smaller, only about 15 kilometers in diameter. These moons are covered with craters. The one that is actually closest to Mars is Phobos, and it is slowly spiraling downward towards Mars. And hold on to your hat. They predict that that moon is going to run into Mars in about 40 million years.
What moon's gonna run?
Okay, so
You better,
all right.
you better protect that Mars.
Oh.
It's coming.
Here's the deal. That's a pretty safe prediction because who's going to be around to prove them wrong?
Hey,
Right?
Hey
All right,
guys, about
thank you.
3.8